Good evening. I am Dana Foster. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight on your Sunday evening. I hope you're having a great night. And I'm really hoping that all this technology is really working out well for me right now. Um, I'm just going to double check here to see if we are live. And then I'm going to introduce Elaine um, to our book club. All right, and we are live. Good, great. So happy to see you here to our new show. It's the One Book Club, and I had the chance to interview Elaine Alec during the pandemic when she first released her book, Calling My Spirit. Um, and to be honest, I'm going to be honest here, I got really triggered by her book and I got emotional, and it took me the afternoon to kind of just digest just a lot of the topics that she speaks about in the book. And I think it's what actually inspired the book club to be able to read this book and then also converse with other people and share and just learn. So that's why I created the One Book Club, and I'm really excited to announce that da, 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 I have a sponsor. Yes, I do. I'm just going to switch right now if it works. And it's not. Darn it. Oh, well, I'll put the logo up after. But Raven Reads is my sponsor for Book Club. So thank you so much. We're going to give you more information after our interview with Elaine. But let's introduce Elaine. Hello, Elaine. It's going to bring her over. Here we go. And it's not working yet. We've got this. There she is.
Hi.
And I love technology. Okay, just one second. I know how to do this. So, okay, there we go.
Awesome.
There we go. Thank you so much for joining me, Elaine. It's great to see you. How have you been since we've last chatted? I'm not sure.
I'm sick right now. So,
Sick.
yeah, but it's been going really well since we last spoke. My books have been selling pretty consistently over the last few months, and I've received so much support from people, and so it's been a really good experience so far.
You've been just on fire. I see there's always something new going on, but you're also conducting, is it workshops or teachings, or are you
Yeah, so I host a half day virtual training session called Cultivating Safe Spaces, and it's based on a lot of the teachings from the book.
All right. So, how has that experience been for you? Are you learning a lot, or is this sparking more discussion and topics for you?
It is. I originally designed it to be a 1 day session, which would introduce people to the concepts of cultivating safe spaces. And then I was also designed a 3 day seminar to go more in depth. And when the pandemic hit, I had to figure out how I was going to continue delivering it. And then I designed a half day session just to get people talking about it and understanding some of the protocols and necessary conditions to cultivating safe spaces.
So, how did there's a few questions here. One, how did you, um, well, I know the answer to this. So, how was the book inspired? So, first off,
So last summer, I traveled across British Columbia and went to 12 different areas of the province to talk to community members about missing and murdered Indigenous women. And we had some really hard conversations, but one of the things that kept coming up was the need for training and capacity for people to have really difficult conversations so we could come up with the solutions for our communities. And that inspired me to write the book, and to provide a resource to people who wanted to facilitate those conversations.
What what did you learn the most about facilitating these workshops that you were surprised to learn?
That's a tough question. What did I learn
That surprised you, or
that surprised me?
yeah, were you already kind of informed with some of the, I guess, the reasons why many of our communities had to go through the process of healing?
It's been work that I've been involved in for probably the last 10 years, really learning how to create that safe space. And most of my experience came from working with my own community, and understanding a lot of the trauma. Sorry, you can hear my kids.
They playing a band up there?
Yeah. So, yeah, you could, I learned a lot from working in community, and just understanding the different perspectives and the lateral violence and the trauma that comes up, and a lot of the reasons why we shut down and don't want to have conversations. And those things really hold us back from working on the stuff that needs to happen in community right now around all other pieces of community development and economic development and governance and all of those things that makes a community work. The one thing that was holding us back was not having a foundation of healing or understanding.
And how did you yourself learn these tools to help communities heal?
I learned through experiences and making a lot of mistakes. I went in as a typical facilitator who is trained as a facilitator, just with the basic skills. And so I would work with communities and different groups. And I made a lot of mistakes, and was constantly corrected by elders and knowledge keepers who would be in the circle with me. And it was really a combination of just learning and listening and not quitting after I was corrected.
Mm-hmm. Um, Sorry, 1 second. It's hard doing a show on your own with utilizing technology. There we go. What are some of the teachings that you like to share to community members and steps of healing?
I think the number one story I utilize is our Four Food Chief story. And that just talks about inclusion and really understanding each other for our differences, and that we're all important. And that we have to have a really strong understanding of self if we want to create a safe space for others, because we have to know the things that trigger us, so that we're not um, putting our triggers on other people as we're working with them.
And for those who might not know much about First Nation culture or stories, can you share what that means, the Four Seasons?
Oh, the Four Food Chiefs. It's a story of our, yeah, it's our creation story, that the Seal people tell. And it was something that I was told as a kid, like a bedtime story. And my grandma would tell me all of these different coyote stories and creation stories when I was little. And I didn't understand at the time that in those stories were our laws and our protocols for how to behave as a person, how to behave in a family, how to behave as part of a community, and how to behave as part of the land.
And how has those teachings in your life shaped who you are?
I think it's really helped me become a more understanding person, a more forgiving person, and an open person, really trying to hear people for where that they're at and not take it personally when there's anger or mistrust or hurt underneath that, and to not hold on to that and allow me to still be open so I can hear them.
How do you get community to start talking and having the tough conversations, to start those healing steps, and adding I guess indigenous community, what is it, health advocacy within communities? How do you get that conversation going within the communities?
I always introduce myself and I tell a little bit about my story, and I'm always open and honest about who I am and the things I've gone through, some of the challenges, and I really kind of pay attention to the people that are there, and I do a lot of prayer and I do a lot of ceremony before I go into a space, and I just have things that I share will be what needs to be heard. And I think when people see somebody willing to be open and vulnerable and honest, it gives space for them to do the same, and leaves that space for us to have open conversations.
So tell us a bit about your story for those who might not know.
So I was born in the Penticton Indian Band, and I spent the first 6 years of life with my grandmother, my tama, and she was a language speaker. And so those were the safest and best times of my life. And other than that, I was with my mom, who was a practicing alcoholic until I was 10 years old. And so, because of that, and because of the alcoholism and drug abuse in our community, there weren't a lot of safe spaces growing up. And so, many of us around my age and younger and older have experienced different abuses in our community, including sexual abuse. And that was a big part of the things that held me back growing up, because I carried a lot of shame and hurts and anger from those experiences. And that drove me to do a lot of things growing up. Like I started smoking when I was 10 and drinking when I was 12 and hitchhiking and just taking part in a lot of self-harm behaviors, and, struggled all through my teens and 20s, and started to focus on healing when I was about 23, 24. But I still didn't know what that meant until I turned 30. And that's when I really started to get honest about where I had been and my story, and dealing with some of the things that I was trying to run away from.
How was that process for you? I mean, congratulations on being able to get out of that. Some people still do struggle, and others are not so fortunate to not get out. How did you get out from that cycle?
I think it was my last attempt at suicide when I was 22 or 23. And I made a decision at that time that I wanted to live. And so I had to make a commitment to being healthy. And so I did the easy stuff first, which was like eating better and doing a little bit of exercise and drinking more water, and just getting active. But it took about 6 or 7 years before I could finally get sober. And the reason why it was so hard was because I had to learn how to deal with feelings. And I think a lot of times we want to heal and we want to move forward, but we're really afraid to be honest about our feelings, and the things that we've gone through, because we don't want to appear weak. And a lot of times when we talk about the things that happened to us, there are things that we were told you need to just get over, or, don't put any focus onto that and just get over it. And so those messages have really stopped a lot of us from wanting to deal with that stuff.
And how, if there's somebody watching this interview with you, and they're feeling that they want to get help, or they're feeling that maybe their communities could use you, use your book, what would you recommend they first do?
I think the first thing I always just recommend to somebody who wants to start making change in their community is just start talking to people who they know will support them and start talking about ideas on how they can come together in their own communities. Because it only takes 2% of our population to create change. And so even just having one or two people in your community who are willing to come together and start having conversations, you'll start bringing other people and attracting other people into your circle. And then as a group, you can start coming up with some solutions on how you want to move forward.
Okay. So can you take us back to you wanting to write the book? You said I believe in your interview or in somewhere I read, you started writing this book when you were 10. So you always wanted to be an author?
Yeah, I was 10 when I first started to write. And when I first got serious about wanting to be a writer. And I started writing different parts of my story. But I based it loosely on my life because I didn't want to be that honest, or I didn't want people to really know what happened with me. And then about 10 years ago, in my 30s, I decided I wanted to write a book about my life. And so I started writing this book 10 years ago, and I wrote 75 pages, and I couldn't get past that. And it sat there, and every year I would sit down and I'd write 1 page or 2 pages, and then I couldn't get past it. And it wasn't until this work in communities last summer when I decided to get disciplined and actually sit down and write it, and made a commitment to do it no matter what.
Because you did go through the self-publishing route.
Yeah, that was the route I chose after really kind of researching the difference between traditional publishing and self-publishing. At first, I wanted to wait for a traditional publisher, but I realized it was more of my ego and more of wanting to be validated that I was a real writer. And I thought if you were a real writer, a traditional publisher would pick you up. And I thought if you were self-published, that just it didn't give you the same credibility if you self-published. And so I really struggled with that and really researched it and decided that I believed in myself enough and that this work was important and that it wasn't about me. It was about helping people facilitate safe spaces. And so I swallowed my ego and I decided to believe in myself and have faith in myself and faith in the work. And I started down the self-publishing route in January.
How has the route been? Are you happy you made the decision?
I am. I was really happy through the whole process because I had a lot of control over timelines, over my product, over my design, how I worked with my editor, what I wanted that to look like, um, and just every aspect of it. And I knew that no matter what, all of the work was going to end up falling on me. And if it failed, it was a reflection of the work that I was willing to do. And as an entrepreneur and someone who's been starting her own businesses for the last 20 years, I knew that I had the skills to put the work in. And so that really excited me, and learning more about the marketing and distribution and publishing process, that was exciting for me to learn something new. And I was proud of myself for being able to do it. But now that the book is picking up and continuing to move forward in this way, I am getting a little burnt out with the paperwork and like admin stuff behind the scenes that you have to do to keep moving it forward. But other than that, like this part and promoting and talking to people, and the actual marketing piece, I love those pieces of it. and sharing my story and hearing from other people and connecting. I love all of that. But it's just the admin piece and financial stuff and those things in the background that's taking a lot of time.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I was just actually chatting with another Indigenous entrepreneur yesterday, and we were both saying that like that's part of that struggle is putting that business hat on, and it's not just like all the fun creative stuff, but it's also you have to do the not so fun stuff.
Yeah, the thinking stuff.
Okay. So if people are watching and they haven't had a chance to pick up your book, maybe this is the first time they're learning about it. What would readers have to look forward to with reading your book, or why would you recommend that they read your book?
So many people have connected with it in different ways. And I've just been, I don't get tired about talking about my book because people pick so many different things from it to talk about. And so some people in the sober community, there's a big sober movement happening since COVID happened. And so I have a lot of people in that community who want to focus on that piece. I have people who are systems thinkers and planners who want to talk about that and how to decolonize systems. I have people who want to talk about motherhood. I have a really big doula following who like to take some of the teachings in raising children and some of those teachings around protocols from my book. There's just so many pieces that people have taken from it that they want to talk about. And even one of the things when I first started talking to a marketing person about this book, we set a goal on who we wanted to target, which was women between the ages of 25 and 45, and said, oh, there aren't going to be many men who are going to want to read your book. This is more for women. And so I said, okay, I understand that. I have had 3 men who are white privileged men who have reached out to me to talk to me about how my book impacted them and how they connected with my story. And they actually wanted to reach out to talk to me about it and let me know what pieces they connected with. And I also have had someone reach out to me from the Netherlands who has really connected with the book and some of the systems teachings around that. So there's just so much people have taken from it. And I think it's because I tried to write it from those different perspectives. And because I've heard so many stories over the last 20 years from people, it's really helped me figure out how to communicate with different groups of people and the way that they think and the way that they experience things.
So, would you say that this is a book for everybody, not just Indigenous people?
Yeah, that was the hardest part. When I first wrote it, I thought this book is for everybody. Everybody should read this. And of course, marketing experts say you can't do that. You have to have a target group. There's no way you can be successful if you try to say it's for everybody. And so we really did focus on that set group of people. But as I've gone through, I've had so many people that have reached out to say everybody should read this. All Canadians should read this. This should be available in universities and part mandatory reading for certain curriculums. So yeah, I think that there's something that so many people can benefit from it.
What do you think it is that just resonates with so many different groups of people?
I think because as human beings in this world and society today, everything teaches us that we're not good enough. And, you know, we're constantly having to strive to be something um, that society dictates to us. And my book is really about learning to be honest with yourself, and loving yourself and standing strong in who you are and letting go of those negative things that you tell yourself so that you can move forward. And I don't think it's, just for Indigenous people. I think all human people deal with that thing inside of us that says we're not good enough, we're not doing enough, that's not right. And it's really a book that helps us process those things so that we can let them go.
And where are you today? How are you today? Do you still struggle? Do you still have struggles within in confidence?
Oh, yeah. I struggle all the time. But one of the most defining moments in my life, and I've had a few, but one of the things that really helped me learn to be confident was standing with one of my mentors who is a PhD and is highly regarded. Um, After one of her classes, I kind of hung around afterwards, and she looked at me and she said, "So, how was that class? Did you understand that?" And I said, "Yeah, it was great. It was the best thing I've ever heard in a long time." And she said, "Oh, good, because I feel like I don't know what I'm doing half the time." And so when she said that, I was like, "What?
Wow.
You don't know what you're doing either?"
I was just saying that yesterday when we were having lunch. I said, I don't know what I'm doing really, but I'm doing it. Oh, that's so great. How do you balance family life, entrepreneur, and all that stuff that's constantly going on around you?
I don't. I don't balance it. Um, I think that's a lie. I think to say that we can balance everything is a total lie. And the biggest reality check that I had with that was my husband, Ryan.
Yeah.
And I said, before I met you, I was pretty balanced. I was really fit. I was working out all the time. I was making a lot of money and I was traveling and doing all this work. And, I was being a pretty decent mom and blah, 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 blah. And then that should have like stood out to me right there. It was like I was really great at my personal well being and health. And I was really great at my work, but I was a decent mom. And so there was an imbalance there. Like I was managing to do all of them somewhat, but there was no balance. And he pointed that out to me that you can't be 100% perfect at everything. You can be good at maybe two things at the same time, but one thing's always going to fall off and it's not going to ever be balanced. And you're going to have to let that idea of balance and perfection go, because if you're going to do this, you need to understand something is going to have to be put to the side a bit, and it's your choice to decide what that is. And so if I'm going to be like full force into my book and full force into my company, and I'm only going to be partial to my momming job, then I have to be okay with that. And I have to really figure out why I'm doing it and where I'm going to make up for it and be easy on myself. And I still have the guilt and stuff around it, but thinking like that now, when I decide to be more there for my family and my kids, and my work is suffering from it or my promotion is suffering from it, I have to be okay with that too. That I'm here going to be 100% mom and a part of my family right now. And I have to be okay with looking like I'm not working hard enough. Like, oh, you're not a serious entrepreneur. You're not a serious writer, because I have to let go of those things, that what I think people are thinking of me, and just be okay with being okay.
Wow, that is like my wow moment, and your aha moment. It is like just thinking about not having that pressure of having to balance everything and doing everything perfectly. Like it just it's like a weight lifted off just to think of it like that. Do you so so you came to peace with it then? You feel
I don't know if I'm at peace with it. I think I'm always going to strive to be able to do it all. But I really have to measure what I'm choosing in that moment and why I'm choosing it. And when it's not good for me or my health, and when I have to let it go. And so I'm a lot more intentional in what I'm doing at that time.
well, thanks, Ryan, for helping us as well, and anybody that's watching. Like, wow, that goal. I know for myself, I'm always kind of putting pressure on myself. Like, you got to do this, you got to do that, and I find that it makes things worse for me. It's like it's get so wound up, right? To just have this like, I am doing something great. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, and just letting it all go. It sounds like something I will start to strive for. Let that digest a little bit. All right. So, what is upcoming for you? Are you already planning on your next book?
I have really had to look at my company and my book. And so, really doing the last 3 years of promoting my book and taking speaking opportunities and stuff really took away from my company, Alderhill. And Alderhill, we employ 5 full-time salary people on our through our company. And then we also have subcontractors, and we manage a lot of different projects that are all happening at the same time. And the amount of work we put into that is make sure that all of our employees are taken care of. And we've kind of struggled over the last little bit. And it's not, it's a combination of everything that's been happening, including COVID. But I know that I could be putting more time and energy into making sure Alderhill continues to be successful. And so I've had to recommit some more of my time and effort into those projects and taking on some of that work. And I'm also working with a mentor who has been fairly successful at growth in his companies. And he is going to be helping me figure out a plan on how I can best support Alderhill to grow so that it can be effective, so that I'm not having to be present for everything. The partners don't have to be doing everything, but that we have an organization that's able to run without us there all the time. And I think we're doing fairly well right now, but we could be doing better. And once we have that settled, and we're able to move forward on that a bit, and I think so. They're flopping around. um, but and the book stuff. So I have these books in the back of my head that I want to write, and I'm really excited about doing a young adult trilogy, and on Indigenous youth. So I want it to be middle school to high school age, loosely based on my life, but some more fiction and stuff into it so it'll attract young people. And I'm trying to debate whether one of them should be a graphic novel, because my daughter is a huge graphic novel fan, and I just think it's so cool how enthralled she is with these books. And so I've been thinking about, I wonder if I know any Indigenous artists who could help me with a graphic novel. And so I've started to think like that too. But I'm an entrepreneur. My brain goes a bunch of different ways and where I could be going. But I do have quite a few ideas on what I want my next 5 books to look like.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. I'm so excited for you. I'm so impressed with your creativity. And just as we start to wrap things up, I wanted to know a little bit about the workshops that you offer. So, if people are wanting to bring you in, can you give us the options that people can bring your workshops into their communities?
So right now I do virtual workshops, and they're usually 4.5 hours. And usually people would warn me against that. You don't want to have people online for more than an hour and a half or 2 hours. but I have not had any complaints about the length of my workshop. And people have really benefited from it and have given me some really great reviews. So, the 1 half-day workshop that I have is called Cultivating Safe Spaces. I also do vicarious trauma and resiliency training. And they can look at more of my workshop options on my website. So www.elainealec.com. I have a breakdown of some of the different keynotes and work that I do there. And then through Alderhill, we do some more of the bigger type planning. So if people want to do healing plans and health and wellness plans or community plans, I usually do that work through Alderhill.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Now, so people that are watching, there is an opportunity for you to win a book, a copy for yourself, and a copy for a family member or a friend. And of course, you're welcome to join our one book club. We are going to be starting next week, actually. I think it's already next week. It's November. Yes, it's already November. So almost November. And so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna keep it. I decided like let's keep it going for like 24 hours. We'll close it after 24 hours, but you comment and tag a friend in this post or something like that, and then or something like that, or even just like it, and then we'll pick one of your names, and you will be the winner of Calling My Spirit Back, a copy for yourself and a copy for a family member or a friend. And of course, you can go check out more about Elaine. Again, the website is elainealec.com. And Elaine, thank you so much for joining me here tonight on a Sunday evening. You can go do some gymnastics now with your friend.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, guys, I'm just going to try to switch this screen here. I am going to. Nope, see? Elaine, I'll say goodbye to you, and then I'll chat with you on Facebook in a bit. Okay, bye bye. There you go. All right. So, yes, the chance is you do have a chance to win a copy of our book. So, just make a comment on this Facebook post, and then we'll enter the draw in the next 24 hours and then announce it tomorrow. And we will chat with you soon. And, like I said, I wanted to let you know that Book Club is sponsored. It's sponsored by, let me just get rid of this here. Let's just remove it. And then we'll add that. There we go. Raven Reads has sponsored the One Book Club, and we're going to give more information about Raven Reads, and where you can go and what it's all about on our website as well. You can go to her website as well. It is ravenreads.org, and it is a seasonal Canadian subscription box of Indigenous reads, giftware, and jewelry delivered right to your doorstep. So there you go. Thank you so much. I'm Dana Foster. You've been watching the Women's Online Network, and this has been One Book